I ran over 10 minutes on the other one there, so hopefully that worked. But anyways, I was saying, with every cam method, that everybody has their own way of doing things, and you find the one that works for you and go with it. So I do the same thing with the power wire that I just did with the negative. I do a nice little hook to it. Make sure my wire's tinned, and then run it down there, and then solder it, and then just as the power solder pad starts to melt, you don't want to do it too much, because then what it'll do is it'll push the power wire through, and then you got to take it out and redo it anyway. So just as it starts to melt, then just drag it, and you'll have a nice solder over everything. So then what I do is I run my negative wire along the bottom, and then out, everything out over right here by the corner of the board. I take my little flat screwdriver and gently press it into the crevices. But you can see that all of my wires will then run out one spot. So now this has been hacked for the camera and external power. And I make my own servos, so that's how I run it out. But if you've got your own 6-wire servo, you can just cut the wires and get them to fit in there. Next thing I do then is I take my faceplate, and where I drill my holes so that the wires comes out is right here. So I take my drill and gently drill a hole right there. Sometimes the glass will break, and sometimes it won't. Now that hole, I use a small drill bit as my starter bit, because I found that if I use a bigger drill bit, it will break the plastic case. So I use a 5/64 to begin with, and then I move up my next cut to a 9/64. It's a bit big, but on an external hack, because of the 26 gauge wires, I find that it works perfectly. You can actually go a little one smaller. Okay. There's your hole. Sometimes you're going to end up cracking the faceplate here. It's not a big deal. It's a cosmetic issue. It does not affect the functionality. So I run my wire hole through there again, and for the most part now, it's just a matter of getting it back together. Make sure you got all your dust out of there. So I just start feeding my wires through. And it doesn't make any difference how I do it, because I know how my wires are, for my hack. I know which is my power, which is my external power, which is my speaker. So even though you're seeing 3 reds here, one's a 26 gauge, one's a 30 gauge, and one's a 26 gauge. I try to use a 26 gauge for the speakers. You could probably get away with something smaller. Okay. Just start putting them through. You can even turn it this way if you want. Run them through. Probably a little easier. Oops, got some wire showing there. Don't make it difficult. Okay, so once you get all your wires started, just gently and evenly pull them up so that you don't end up with a whole jumbled mess there. What you want is you want them all to come out nice and smooth. That way the camera comes close nice and smooth. So you can see everything's your starting point. Now some guys do their stuff right here. I don't like that because you have to run your wires behind there or underneath. This way there's only 2 wires that have to do that. Again, it doesn't mean they're right and I'm wrong or anything of that nature. It just means that that's the way they do it. That's just more comfortable for them. So again, just gently pull these through as you're closing your case, because you want everything to be nice and neat. Okay. Whoops. Don't do what I did there and forget your button. Put your button back on there. I've done that a few times, put my screws in and realized I didn't have it set up right. Okay, again, gently put them through there. Okay. And then the camera will just gently snap into place. Okay. There you go. You heard the snap. And now you're just a matter of putting your screws back in. One thing I always do at this point, open up the battery door, look down in there inside to make sure that there's no battery wires or no wires that are going to prohibit your batteries from coming in there nice and cleanly. Okay, we're good to go. So now what you can do is take your screws and start putting the camera back together. And that, when we're done, will be a hacked camera ready to put in. And we'll put some batteries in it here in just a second and test it. Now, one thing you want to make sure is that your shortest screw that you took out of the 6th one goes back at the top, because if you put a longer screw in there, it will keep the USB port from popping out. And then when the camera's all back together, and I'm pretty sure, or I've verified that the hack works, what I do then is I put in these last remaining plastic pieces that you took out to begin with. It's a cosmetic thing, it's not necessary, but you know, it makes the camera look good. Okay, there you go on that. Now what we're going to do is test our hack. I should have had some pictures ready, or sorry, some batteries ready. Okay, powered it on using the manual switch. Alrighty, let's see if I've got a little SD card handy, which I don't, so I gotta go into my stash here and get one. Okay, so I take my power, here we go, and touch it to my battery common. Camera power's on, so we know that works. Touch my common to my shutter, and it begins to record. Touch it again, and it stops recording. So we know that works. How you focus it, a lot of you guys have been told, but you just twist the lens to where it focuses. And it gets you into where you are, and then you can find focus and do whatever you want. But anyway, that's a functioning camera. Just touch these two again to turn it off. There we go. You've got yourself a hacked DXG. Now you just finish up your servo. If you guys make your own, obviously you know how to do that. You clip it, put it to where it needs to be. You've got the servo, you just clean it up. And that is a DXG. I will do my next portion of the video using the stock lens and convert it to a the no-brainer hack for IR.